and that being said, I imagine it can feel like the more money you make, that the more you get discriminated against in a negative way. What is reverse discrimination, and how does it affect high income earners?
Reverse discrimination is everything we've just been talking about. It is the idea that the more money you make, there are more things that you can't fully participate in because of that income, or there are more taxes that you might owe because of that income. Another example, which is probably the most consistent or prevalent form of reverse discrimination, would be something like an employer match on a 401k. So you might have a company that says, if you put money in your 401k, we'll match the first 3% of your pay that you set aside up to a maximum of $10,000. Well, everybody who works at that company where 3% of their pay is less than $10,000, they get the full 3% match. But if you have someone who earns so much that 3% of their pay is more than $10,000, they don't get the full employee match. That's reverse discrimination. Now, the person who makes less would look at that and be like, big whoop, right? Like, I'll take those problems. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at studies that study the average 401k millionaire, so people with at least 7 figures in their 401k, on average, over $250,000 of that money came from matching contributions. So imagine having $1 million and 250,000 of it came from your company. The 401k match is a huge deal. So if you have someone who's not able to participate at the same ratio, that's reverse discrimination. And you'll find it in almost every area of a person's finances. With taxes, there's something called the alternative minimum tax, where you take a high income earner, and essentially there's 2 tax codes. There's the regular tax code. There's the alternative minimum tax code. And they'll look and they'll say, if you don't pay at least what you owe on the alternative minimum tax code, that's what you have to pay. We don't care what was calculated on the regular way. You got to pay at least this much. So there's all types of examples in each area of people's money where, as you earn more, there's more you have to be aware of. There's more at risk. There's more that you can misplan. And that's the benefit of working with wise counsel.
Absolutely. Definitely, there's plenty of benefit of working with wise counsel. And like you said, when dealing with that hater in the audience, there's also more than one way to skin a cat, right? And just to add a little tidbit, a little fun fact to the podcast. A lot of times when it crosses my mind and I come across one of those old sayings, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Sometimes I say, hold on, I wonder where did that come from, right? Where did that first come from? Do you know where that phrase, there's more than one way to skin a cat, come from, Brenton?
I'm actually afraid to guess. So I don't know where it came from.
So back in the early 1900s, I think 1800s as well, maybe, but it was a very common in women's fashion for them to wear cat fur. That was very common, right? And it was considered, you were considered like you were doing something. You had some nice cat fur accessory on. And the way that they would get the fur off of the cats was they would pour live cats into boiling water. And that's how they would get the skin off the cat. Until finally somebody said, hold up, there's gotta be more than one way to skin a cat. So,
well, I'm glad that story had a more humane ending than I was expecting.
Exactly. Just imagine walking in and figuring out, like, hold up. First off, why do they have to be alive? Like, why? So, but all truths are parallel. There's more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to dealing with your finances, when it comes to dealing with getting out of debt, when it comes to dealing with these perceived notions and inconsistencies and counterintuitive things when it comes to how you deal with life. And that's why it's good to have somebody like Brenton with everything that you talked about on your side. Is there a question that I did not ask you that I should have?
No, that's the good thing with working with people who are aligned. You said so many things where I'm like, man, you spot on it when you were talking about people where even if they're listening to their parent, you look up and you're saying, hey, it's great that you're an obedient child, but you make 10 times what your parents made. The way that you do this is going to look different, even though you may think that those people hung the moon. Like, you got to do it a different way. So, we've talked about the things that are important to my heart when it comes to money and family, and those things, they cross borders and boundaries.
Absolutely.